Welcome to Climate Action with Net Zero Homes, a podcast brought to you by Schneider Electric, dedicated to achieving net zero goals and building smart and sustainable homes. We speak with global CEOs, industry analysts, innovators, and energy optimists to tackle the biggest sustainable challenges we face at home by leveraging smart technology and digital innovation.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new episode of Climate Change with Net Zero Homes. In this podcast, we're going to talk about how we can achieve our net zero goals at home. Every time we receive new guest speakers to talk about different things, different initiatives, and help us all to understand what can we do, what do we do, and how can we really drive a change for the future. Today, we are very pleased to welcome and to have our host from BASF, Patrick Hasenhütl, Vice President, Business Management Industrial Application, which we worked with and partnered with for years already to develop new things, innovation toward sustainability. Patrick, welcome and thanks to be with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Florent, for inviting me to your podcast, and hello, everyone.
So Patrick, maybe let's start by getting to know you a little bit. Who are you? And can you tell us a bit of your company as well, BASF, and then who you're working with?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Patrick Hasenhütl within BASF. I'm responsible for our European plastics business with customers in industrial applications like electrical equipment. And to give a little background about BASF, because I think we are not an everyday consumer brand, right? So we are the world's leading chemical company with more than 110,000 employees and roughly 87 billion in sales revenues. We have a strong focus on innovation. Each year we invest roughly 2 billion euro in innovation, and we have roughly 10% of our employees who work in R&D. The products that we make are being used in all our daily lives. In fact, I would say there's hardly an everyday item which does not contain a product that is made by BASF. So for example, be it detergents to clean the dishes or the laundry, toothpaste and cosmetics, paints, but also plastics to insulate homes, or like in your case, to protect electrical equipment. And what's very special about BASF is that we have a very high degree of vertical integration in our production. What does that mean? That means, that when you produce chemicals, very often oil is a key raw material. And within our company, we do everything and we control everything from cracking down the oil into very tiny molecules and then reassembling them in several chemical processes to larger molecules for the products that I mentioned before. And yeah, having all of these production steps in one hand, again, is unique for us in the chemical industry. And it's also a big advantage when it comes to sustainability, as I will probably explain later on the podcast.
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing quite a lot of things, quite technical, very impressed. So if we just try to explain it a bit, our people here, what we do together. So first of all, I think we have quite a long partnership together. Our team have been working together for quite a long time. Why we do that is because really we foresee big opportunities to replace the material within our product, especially when it comes to plastic. And we know within our industry, especially for all the offer we have for residential, we have a lot of plastic. So we have a lot of opportunities. In Schneider, we have a big commitment. We want to reach 50% of recycled content by 2025. This is super aggressive, and we are really working hard towards that. The good news is we are on track because end of last year, we were already achieving 18%. But in order to reach 50%, we have to do much more. So this is why we need people like you. We need partners like you because it's really a long-term transition, a long-term commitment we have to deliver. And we need to find partners to help us to find the right things to do, the right alternatives, the right technology. Technology exists. This is the good news. Now, how can we use it? How can we implement it? This is why we need such a partnership. So can you explain this audience and us, okay, how your company BASF is innovating and how it's helping the transition toward the sustainable materials?
It's great to see, the big ambitions that you have and what you're really striving and implementing to do here, because dealing with plastic and especially plastic waste is a huge problem, of course. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I think it becomes evident because in Europe we have roughly 30 million metric tons of plastic waste every year. And if then we look at the recycling rate, how much can be recycled today? We talk about roughly 1/3 only that is being recycled today. And that means that 2/3, the rest, is mostly being incinerated or being landfilled. And why is it that only 1/3 can be recycled? There are several reasons, but mechanical recycling, of course, always means that you have to sort the plastic at some point in time, and the sorting technologies still have limitations. They're getting better and better, but there are still limitations. And often also you have multi-material plastic parts that are also hard to separate mechanically. So that's the picture in Europe with 30 million metric tons. If we zoom out globally, there's even 350 million metric tons of plastic waste every year. And here, unfortunately, only 20% is being recycled at the moment. So it's the percentage is lower than in Europe. The reasons are similar as to why it's only 20%. Plus, in certain parts of the world, unfortunately, there's also often a lack of awareness that you should not throw a used plastic bottle into the environment, or there are missing collection systems to prevent the waste from being swept through the rivers into the ocean, for example. So this plastic waste topic is actually a huge problem. And at BASF, we want to help and contribute to tackling this problem. And I just would like to mention two examples here. The first one is the so-called Alliance to End Plastic Waste. And here we are a founding member. The alliance consists in total of 70 members, and together we spend more or less 1.5 billion euro, for example, to run awareness campaigns that you should not throw plastic waste into the environment, to finance cleanup days, or to contribute to infrastructure to collect and manage the plastic waste. Yeah? And with this, we help and make a contribution to reduce the amount of plastic that pollutes our environment. So that's the first example. The second example, and that's then also relevant in our relationship with Schneider Electric, is the so-called chemical recycling, or like we call it, chemcycling. And we already talked about recycling of plastic waste. We talked about a recycling rate of 20 to 30% today, but that's with mechanical recycling. And as I said, mechanical recycling has its limitations, unfortunately. And if we want to recycle even more, we need new technologies. And chemcycling is one of these technologies that can help us to recycle even more. So that means for chemcycling, we mainly look at plastics that cannot be mechanically recycled today. So that means we talk about mixed plastic waste, for example, or used car tires. And this type of plastic waste we turn through a thermochemical process called pyrolysis into a so-called pyrolysis oil. And here we are back with an oil, the key raw material of the chemical industry. So basically what we do, we can use this pyrolysis oil in our plants as a raw material, very similar to a fossil oil. Yeah? And now that's also where where we can close the loop to what I mentioned earlier. Because now we come back to the vertical integration, and suddenly it's an advantage for us that we have this high degree of vertical integration, and we control all these steps from cracking down the oil into tiny molecules and making bigger chemicals out of that, because we can take this pyrolysis oil now, use it in our own operations, and then feed all our, let's say, or feed our downstream plants with this. Yeah.
Okay, so you refer to chemical recycling, which is something that I have to admit, not so familiar with, and also a lot of people are with, for sure. It's quite technical. And usually people opposite that with mechanical ones, a bit more familiar with, I think, for at least industrial industry. So I think it would be good for people just to better understand a bit, okay, what are the differences, and then okay, how can we easily, I would say, differentiate those two things. So if we just want to ask, okay, sorry, but what does that mean? And what's the impact when it comes to plastic?
So many people, of course, know, they are familiar with mechanical recycling, and then they hear about chemical recycling and say, yeah, what's this and how does it fit together? So again, it's not either or. Mechanical recycling is super. Mechanical recycling is a really great and efficient way to create a circular economy. But unfortunately, it has limitations and it can only be used for certain waste streams, as I mentioned before. So chemical recycling is complementary, and chemical recycling is being used for those waste streams that cannot be mechanically recycled today. So it's not either or, they are complementary, and together they actually form a strong team and help to recycle, to increase the share of plastic waste that can be recycled beyond the 20 to 30% that we have today. And the good thing is that with the mechanical recycling, also with the chemical recycling, the good thing is that actually you have the final sales product has the exact same properties like a product that is made from fossil oil. And I can imagine, Florent, that's also super important for you, because the parts that you make are also, they are important for the safety in the homes, and you have high requirements there, right?
Absolutely. And we'll talk about safety in a home. This is where it clicks to Schneider, right? I mean, let's not forget, Schneider, we are part of 25% of the homes in the world. So we are everywhere. But you know, the funny part is that people don't know about it. So we are here without people knowing that we are here. And we are here through the panels, through the breakers, which is really all the equipment that help us to distribute electricity safely. And people are really peace of mind in terms of the equipment installation. And then whatever happened, they are under a safe environment. And this is really a value we're conducting, and this is something we are very proud of. But as we work with you, as we continue looking at what we do, we need to make sure safety remain at top level. And when we change material for another one, it could seem that, okay, it's a purely, I would say, techno change to do something more efficient. But that's not that simple, because we have to comply with high regulation. Just looking at the heating regulation and the high temperature that we have to comply with, every single breaker has to be able to resist to 960 degrees, 960 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. It's a lot, it's very high. So as we move the material, as we substitute the material, we need to make sure we still comply toward that. Otherwise, no way we can deliver our product to the market. This is why it's not so simple. This is why it takes time. This is why it requires lots of collaboration, test, pilot, failure, as we learn from that. And I think what we can be very proud of is, after all those years, one thing we've been able to deliver in our product today, the one which are commercialized in Sweden, we've been able to reach 56% of recycled material today from the plastic part. Yeah. This is a lot, this is a lot. And I think we are very proud. We need to continue pushing the needle toward even more, but it's already quite a big milestone, big achievement. I remember when we started it and we said we need to reach 50%, we all considered that, oh, come on, it's gonna be way too high to achieve it, but we did it. And we just need to continue. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about this story, where it started, and just walk us toward that.
Yeah, sure. Actually, quite a nice story from our point of view also. So it started back in 2018, so 5 years ago, when we received a request for sustainable plastic materials from your engineers. And it also happened that at this time, around this time, I participated in a supplier event of Schneider Electric. And during this supplier event, when I listened to the speech of your CEO at the time, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, I realized that basically half of the time he talked about sustainability, how important it is going to be for Schneider Electric, and that you will be the leader in your industry when it comes to sustainability. And I went back home and I thought, wow, I mean, they have the same ambitions as we have in the chemical industry. And that, of course, gave us even more motivation for the request that we had from you to work together and do some pioneering work here together. Yeah, so really a fantastic fit. So based on this, then we looked at the requirements, the technical requirements we had from your engineers, the color requirements, the sustainability requirements, and we developed the product and proposed that to you in 2019. And for this product, we decided to attribute, for sustainability purposes, pyrolysis oil made from used car tires. And I say attribute pyrolysis oil because what happens on our end is when you order this sustainable plastic material from us, we make a calculation. We say for this amount of plastic material, we need that amount of pyrolysis oil. And then we take that pyrolysis oil, and in the beginning of our production network, we take this amount of pyrolysis oil and instead of a fossil oil, right? So, and then this pyrolysis oil is being used in our plant and ends up in our network. It might end up in your plastic, it might also end up in other plants, but it's a certified process. We know that this amount of pyrolysis oil has been used only because of your order, yeah, in our production network. And this might sound complicated. It's called mass balance, but it's exactly what we know from our daily lives, because if at home you procure green electricity, it works exactly the same way. Or if you go to the supermarket and you buy a bar of fair trade chocolate, it's also the same way that this here works, right? So we had developed the product, proposed it to you, your engineers tested it, your marketing colleagues did a great job in market research and the marketing concept. And then finally last year, the product was launched. And we were also proud to have with some of your colleagues a creator talk, a joint creator talk at the world's largest plastics trade show, the K-Fair in Düsseldorf.
Thanks for sharing. And you know, the funny thing is, I was discussing that with my fiance a few days ago, and then she was listening, and she was saying, okay, but concretely, what does that do? and it's always funny because people understand when they say, okay, but concretely, what does that do? And I think important to give some figures to really put some facts behind all the work which is done by both of our teams. So if today we have to make a summary, I think we can say clearly that with the work which has been done together since we started, we've been able to recycle 400 tons of plastic, which have been totally switched toward recycled materials thanks to the work that we have been conducting together. 400 tons, which is huge. And for a single product, it represents almost 30% of CO2 saving per even any unit which is sold, which is quite significant. As a parallel, also, we're able to save almost 15% in our production of those products. So those 400 tons are made thanks to the saving made of the material itself, but also on the way we produce the product, which is really great, knowing all the volume we're going to drive in the coming months with the way we're going to implement the technology. Mm-hmm. So when I told that with my wife, she was, oh, say, cool, but hopefully we can do even more in the future. I say, okay, be easy on this, please, be easy. but I think the commitment is clear. So now if we try to understand, okay, but BASF as a company, you mentioned about Schneider, big ambition, I think clearly exposed. I think same for your company, right? So what could be your main goals when it comes to sustainability as a company?
For us, sustainability is deeply anchored in our company purpose. So 10 years ago was the first time, roughly 10 years ago was the first time when BASF gave itself a company purpose. And it is, we create chemistry for a sustainable future. So from that, you can see it actually goes a long way back. That we understood, you know, we have to become more sustainable in the way we operate and to enable a more sustainable society in general. So concretely, when we talk about targets, we want to become carbon neutral when it comes to our scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2050. 2030 for us is an important milestone on that journey, because in 2030 is we say we want to have reduced our CO2 emissions by 25% compared to 2018. And so far, I'm proud to say that we are on track here. Yeah? So what do we do on the journey to carbon neutrality? There's, of course, on the one hand, continuous optimization of our production processes, but also a big lever here is electrification. So you can imagine if you look at a chemical plant, you need a lot of energy to run the chemical processes for heat, for pressure, for example. And today, most of that energy is being generated by burning fossil fuels. And we are now in a transition here because in the future, we want to make this energy available in the plants in the form of electricity, in the form of renewable electricity. And that means we invest a lot in our plant infrastructure here. And we also invest a lot in wind parks and also in solar parks. So to give an example, this is also not only small money. We invested several €100 million and are a co-owner in the world's largest offshore wind park, which is currently being built in the North Sea. Mm-hmm. And we also built up a huge new chemical plant, a whole new site in China. The total investment is $10 billion. And this will be fully powered by renewable energy. The whole big site will be fully powered by renewable energy. Yeah, so that for us is a big lever. And that's what we can do with today's technologies. But on the way to net zero or to zero CO2 emissions, that's not enough. And we also need new technologies. And that's what we do in parallel to develop new processes. For example, a new steam cracker that cracks down the oil at more than 800 degrees Celsius with the help of electrical energy. Huge heat pumps that do not exist today for our industrial use here today are being developed. And there are many more examples. So we have the ambition to be the leader when it comes to sustainability in the chemical industry. The team here puts a lot of creativity and pioneering spirit in it. And it's actually quite exciting to see what's going on and the progress that the colleagues make on that journey.
Indeed, as you said, very exciting, very, very, very positive, optimistic for everybody to have a company like yours driving so many things in parallel, because we know it requires lots of effort behind to make it happen. So easy to have a plan, but then delivering it is even more difficult. And we know for all the work we've done together, but also with some example where you have implemented energy efficiencies within your own sites. I think we have worked together toward different things. One of your campus has been installed with the newest technology. So clearly it's good to really have partners like you, and this is the only way we're going to drive the change across all the different industries, all the different companies, with the partner, with the customers. And that's really what we have to continue pushing and accelerating. Patrick, thanks a lot. Honestly, great having you. Thank you for sharing all the things which are done with BASF, but also the different initiatives we've been conducting together. I know much more will come, and it's really great to count you on our partners, and we can just continue that collaboration for many, many more years, as we know there is a lot of new things that we need to do in the coming future. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you also, Florent, from my side. And I also want to take the opportunity to, first of all, congratulate you for your breakthrough project that you did with us. I agree with your wife. We need more projects like this. And I say this also as the proud father of 2 girls. Yeah. So indeed, it's very courageous what you do here. You're breaking new ground. And I also want to clearly thank you and the Schneider team for the great collaboration that we had here in this project and in general. And yeah, as I said, we need more projects like this all together, and let's continue the journey.
Thanks again, Patrick, for all the explanation and all the learnings. Definitely reaching net zero homes, lots of things can be done, and it's just one other example, one other brick that can really help to drive and deliver that goal. Hopefully here you've listened and you learned lots of different things. We will continue to inform and share more. So please stay tuned. Please share that podcast. It's a way also to bring awareness everywhere around us, and we continue to be ambassador for that. Thank you for being with us. That was Florent Berard, and talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Climate Change with Net Zero Homes podcast by Schneider Electric. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on the podcast app of your choice so you are sure you don't miss an episode. If you like this episode, we'd appreciate your rating. For more information on the Climate Change with Net Zero Homes podcast, go to sc.com and look for Homes of the Future, or follow us on LinkedIn. The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only, should not be undertaken as financial, economic, legal, business, tax, or investment advice. The information, statements, views, and opinions should not be construed as the provision of advice by Schneider Electric or as an offer to buy or sell any products or services, or to make or consider any investment or course of action.